Okay, guys, it's time for your Unit 1 assessment. So this is a pretty long test. It's 30 questions. I'm going to read the answer choices to you. I'll go through it a little bit more quickly than usual since there are so many. I don't want it to take too long. Hopefully, you'll be able to do this in one class period. But if you need another class period, you can. Okay. This has to be done by Friday, before the end of the school day Friday, okay? Because it will go on this 6 weeks. All right, so the first selection that you're about to read is called The Imp of the Perverse by Edgar Allan Poe. Edgar Allan Poe lived and wrote during the 1800s, so I want you to think about that. Several of these questions are about the setting, and so I want you to think about the time period in which this is. So setting includes the time and the place. And so he lived and wrote during the 1800s, and so that's the time setting of this piece. So the first question is, which detail from the plot is influenced by the historical setting? So you'll want to think about, of course, you've already read it. You'll want to think about which of these answer choices could not have happened in another time period. So it's like specific to this historical time period. The city streets, the murder weapon, the narrator's madness, or the narrator's dilemma. So maybe I spoke too soon when I said it couldn't happen in another era, but what is the thing that is most influenced by the time period? Most influenced by the time period. Again, the city streets, the murder weapon, the narrator's madness, or the narrator's dilemma. Poe uses the imp archetype, which describes a character who compulsively creates mischief to something. We learned about archetypes this 6 weeks, so I hope you remember what that is. You can always use a dictionary on any part of the test. So if you want to open Merriam-Webster tab, it is merriam-webster.com. You can look up any of the literary terms or the vocabulary words. So why does he use this imp archetype who compulsively creates mischief? Is it to explain why the narrator kills his victim? To imply the narrator views murder as a game? To set up the narrator's unintended confession? Or to foreshadow the narrator's eventual madness? Why does he use this imp archetype, which describes a character who compulsively creates mischief? Number 3, what does the word impertinent mean in paragraph 1? So I'm just going to find the word. They have it underlined for you, so that's good. Impertinent. Again, use a dictionary, but it's not just asking you for the definition, but how is it used in this paragraph? Irrelevant, and you may need to look up these words as well, okay? Use that dictionary. So impertinent in this sentence, does it mean irrelevant, sentimental, gruesome, or intellectual? Unless you are absolutely certain you know the meanings of these words, look them up in the dictionary, the online dictionary. Number 4, read the origin of the word gradations from the Latin gradatio, ascent by steps. Based on this information, what is the meaning of gradations in paragraph 2? So here's this word. Would read the sentence that it's in plus the sentences around it. And it's kind of asking you to do it based on the word origin from the Latin meaning. So keep that in mind when you look it up. But I would still look the word up. So what does it mean in paragraph 2? A series of small increases, a modest shift in shape, an increase in height, an unusual chain of events. What does impunity mean in paragraph 2? Got quite a few vocabulary questions here. Again, look the word up. Heavy burdens, good luck, lack of problems, freedom from punishment. Which line best demonstrates how the character's thoughts or actions support the theme of fearing one's own impulses? Fearing one's own impulses. I rejected 1,000 schemes because their accomplishment involved a chance of detection. No sooner had I uttered these words than I felt an icy chill creep into my heart. At first, I made strong effort to shake off this nightmare of the soul. I understood too well that to think, in my condition, was to be undone. So which line best demonstrates how the character's thoughts, you really have to think about the wording of the question, how the character's thoughts or actions support the theme of fearing one's own impulses. You may even want to look up the word impulses in this question. Number 7, archetypes again. Which archetype does the story most closely resemble? Good versus evil, due to the struggle between two opposing forces. A journey, due to the many obstacles faced throughout the story. A fall from grace, due to the changing position of the narrator from beginning to end. Or an initiation, due to the experiences the narrator has that lead to maturation. Maturation means maturity. So what it's asking you here is sometimes an archetype is a person, but an archetype can also be a certain situation or a certain conflict that is common across genres and time periods and different pieces of literature. So does this story represent mostly a theme of good versus evil, the idea of a journey, or a fall from grace, or an initiation? You might want to look up the word initiation there too, or any other word that you don't know the meaning of. In paragraphs 3 and 4, the author reveals the narrator's thoughts to. So here we have paragraphs 3 and 4, so you need to read those again. In a fit of petulance at my indiscretion, I remodeled them thus. I am safe. I am safe. Yes, I do not prove fool enough to make open confession. Why does the author reveal the narrator's thoughts? To create humor in the story, to increase tension in the story, to demonstrate that the narrator is becoming ill, or to foreshadow that the narrator will be attacked. Number 9. The author most likely includes the memory in paragraph 4. And I see the words here, long ago during childhood. Why does he most likely include that memory? To develop the theme of mental illness, nagging guilt, self-indulgence, or self-sabotage. I would look these words up if I were you. Self-indulgence, self-sabotage, nagging guilt, mental illness. Number 10, which aspect of the story is most influenced by the historical setting? So this is very similar to that first question, I believe it was. The event at the climax of the story. Remember, the climax is the highest point of the story, the most suspenseful point of the story, the turning point of the story. So which is most influenced by the historical setting? The main theme of the story, the author's choice of language, or the author's choice of language, or the author's choice of structure. Which one of these is most influenced by the time period and the setting? In paragraphs 4 and 5, which phrase best contributes to the narrator's tone of panic and anxiety? Remember, when we're looking for tone words, we're looking for words that indicate how someone feels. So we're looking in paragraphs 4 and 5 to see how the author feels, or the narrator. And we want to know which phrase best contributes to panic and anxiety. Uttered these words, resisted their attacks, walked vigorously, or gasped for breath. Number 12, Poe's, that's the author, repetition of I and his use of dashes at the beginning of paragraph 5 show that the narrator is. So you see the dashes here? At first, I made strong effort to shake off this nightmare of the soul. I whistled. I laughed aloud. I walked vigorously, faster and still faster. At length I saw, or fancied that I saw, a vast and formless shadow that seemed to dog my footsteps. So the repetition of the I and the use of those dashes, which give you a long pause, they show that the narrator is beginning to think those nearby suspect him, forgetting where he hid the candle, losing his composure and state of mind, growing angry at the size and volume of the crowd. Number 13, the word shriek, as it is used in paragraph 5, suggests that the narrator is, so here we go, it was then that I ran. I felt a wild desire to shriek aloud. Is he apprehensive, nervous, cautious, or terrified? Number 14, which sentence best expresses the author's point of view? We're on a new story here, Empty Bowls, so make sure you've read it, a new selection, I should say. It's not terribly long. Should be a little bit easier to understand than the Edgar Allan Poe piece. Which sentence best expresses the author's point of view? So what is the author trying to get across here? What is his perspective? John Hart is a brilliant art teacher who has done much good in the world. The Empty Bowls project is a good idea that has had very positive results. The problem of hunger in the world will probably never be solved. It is terrible that so many people go hungry each day. What point do you think that this author is trying to get across the most of these? The author's purpose for using statistics as evidence in paragraph 1. So here's the statistics. I see 87 million. I see 13%. Okay? Statistics are facts having to do with numbers. Why would he use that? To prove that every reader should care about world hunger since it could happen to them. To provide evidence meant to be refuted. You may need to look that word up. To amaze the readers so they can continue reading. Or to provoke the idea in the reader that something must be done about world hunger. 16. The word stunned, as used in paragraph 3 of Empty Bowls, suggests that people were, paragraph 3, there was a moment of stunned silence, and he knew that he had started something big. Suggests that people were intrigued, astounded, confused, or bothered. Look up those words if you need to. 17. It can be reasonably inferred from paragraph 4 of the passage that the people were deeply moved due to their confusion, respect, newfound awareness, or continued excellence. So paragraph 4 here, it can be reasonably inferred from paragraph 4 that the people were deeply moved due to confusion, respect, newfound awareness, or continued excitement. Which sentence supports the idea that the Empty Bowls Project is a non-profit organization? He then invited the guests to keep their empty ceramic bowls to remind them of the hungry. He and his wife drew up a set of guidelines for others to follow. Over the years, Empty Bowls events have raised tens of millions of dollars to help feed the hungry, or 100% of the money collected at an Empty Bowls event is given to local food banks, soup kitchens, and shelters. Number 19, in paragraph 5, the author's purpose for using the phrase 1 in 6 people suffer is to present an impassioned tone, present a mournful tone, present an aggressive tone, present a mocking tone. So you might want to look up these words: mocking, aggressive, mournful, impassioned. What is the author's attitude towards the subject that he is talking about? That is what tone means. Okay. Which paragraph best, this is number 20, which paragraph best supports the idea that an empty bowl is a powerful symbol of hunger? Paragraph 1, 2, 4, or 5. Which paragraph best supports the idea that an empty bowl is a powerful symbol of hunger? 21. The author's purpose in using emotional appeal is to, this goes back to the use of ethos, pathos, and logos, your rhetorical strategies. Why does he use an emotional appeal in this selection? To establish his authority, to establish his trustworthiness, to motivate the reader to attend the event, or to motivate the reader to end world hunger? What do you think he's trying to do here with an emotional appeal? 22. Read this sentence from paragraph 5 of the article. If we want to keep this country great, then we need to keep this country full. What type of fallacy impacts the author's logic? I'm going to go ahead and give you the answer to this one because we did not learn about all of these. The answer is, if we want to keep this country great, then we need to keep this country full. That's a generalization, saying that if everyone is well fed, then everything in the country will be great. That's just a generalization. Okay, so there's your answer. Number 23. Which sentence best describes the author's purpose in writing this essay as revealed in paragraph 5? So it's telling you that the author's overall purpose is revealed best in paragraph 5. So what is that purpose? The author wants to get people to organize Empty Bowls events in their communities. Usually at the end of a persuasive piece of writing, the author will have a call to action or kind of let you know what he or she wants you to do. The author wants to persuade readers to attend the Empty Bowls event in town. The author wants to persuade artists to contribute to various Empty Bowls events. The author wants to educate readers on how Empty Bowls events impact world hunger. 24. Now we're on to a revising and editing bit. The last few questions are revising and editing. There are 30 questions. We're on 24. Which sentence best combines sentences 7 and 8? For months, she had practiced her song, and now the contest was here, and the worst thing had happened. So we're looking at sentences 7 and 8 right here. For months, she had practiced her song. Now that the contest was here, though, the worst thing had happened. That's not the best way to say that. What would be better? For months, she had practiced her song, and now the contest was here, and the worst thing had happened. She had practiced her song for months, but now that the contest was here, the worst thing had happened. Now that the contest was here, the worst thing had happened, though she had practiced her song for months. But the worst thing had happened now that the contest was here, after Haley had practiced her song for months. What is the best way to revise sentence 10? Haley has always had a nice voice. Haley will have a nice voice always. Haley had always had a nice voice. This is a problem with verb tense, I think. Haley would always have a nice voice. Haley always had had a nice voice. This has to do with verb tense. Remember, you can't shift verb tenses around in a piece of writing. So you need to read the whole thing and see what the verb tense is.
UIL academic coaches will be meeting about 5 minutes in my room, the Scarecrow's room, 311. All right, see you all then. Bye.
Which sentence best combines sentences 12 and 13 using a comma and a conjunction? Okay, using a comma and a conjunction. Conjunctions are, well, I'm not going to tell you what the conjunctions are, but read the sentences and decide how to best combine sentences 12 and 13 using a comma and a conjunction. 27, what is the best way to revise sentence 32? Sentence 32 says, as usual, Leah would have a point. As usual, Leah had a point. As usual, Leah has a point. As usual, Leah had a point. Oh, this says Leah had a point. Leah had a point. As usual, Leah was having had a point. So again, we're talking about verb tenses here. We had one lesson over that this 6 weeks. So make sure that that verb tense matches up with the rest of the selection. What is the best revision for sentence 34 to maintain a formal tone? Formal tone. I'm all over it. I think I can do this. I'm for sure down with that. This will be a piece of cake. Which one of those is the most formal? 29. What is the best revision in sentences 19 through 21 to maintain a more formal tone? I'm scared, really scared, like I might faint scared. I am so scared that I might totally collapse. I'm so scared that I feel like I might faint. I'm extremely scared that I could go out like a light. I'm really so scared that I'm going to drop. Which one of those is more formal? And number 30, what is the best revision for sentence 15 to maintain a more formal tone? Leah was one of Haley's BFFs. So we have like some slang there, this BFF idea. Leah thought Haley needed her as a buddy. Leah thought Haley was among her favorite pals. Leah and Haley were close as can be. Leah and Haley were best friends. Which one of those would maintain a more formal tone? And that is the end of your test. You can rewind, pause, go back to questions as needed. This has to be finished. You will have this class period today and all class period tomorrow if needed. All right, if you have any further questions, let me know.